first of all, very good morning to all of all present here. And from Center for Research and Development, that's part of Women Entrepreneur Foundation. I welcome all of you. The founder of Women Entrepreneur Foundation is also here. So thank you, ma'am, Advocate Manvi Rajvanshi, for creating this kind of opportunity where we all five of us could gather and discuss about a very important issue. And yes, Prerna, once again, congratulations and all the best, because this is your day. So moving forward with this, I would just like to say the objective, why we are here, why we have gathered, and why are we discussing about menstrual hygiene and health. So the objective of this conference is to discuss and record the views of all the guests who are experts in the sectors like finance, legal, health, and also the global exposure that Garima has with UN. And also Prerna, who is very much attached to this issue, as she's coming up with products which is related to menstrual hygiene. So we all are here to discuss and record the views of all of us in order to write a report on menstrual health and hygiene. And the reason here is because this sector is a business opportunity for all the females worldwide. So rather than considering this as a cause, but how is it a business opportunity for all of us? So the agenda here is to discuss this and also to record this, which can be a very fruitful study, and also it can be a very strengthening point for females who want to enter into the business line, considering this as a business opportunity. So now, just a brief introduction of all of us present here. I am Nisha Bansal, Head Women Studies, Center for Research and Development, Women Entrepreneur Foundation. I welcome Advocate Manvi Rajvanshi, COO, Juris Law Offices, and also founder of Women Entrepreneur Foundation. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Nisha.
Now we have Garima Sharma, who is National Officer, HIV and Gender, UNDP. So welcome, Garima.
Thank you, Nisha.
We have Prerna Gupta, who is the founding director of Pink Days. Welcome, Prerna.
So much.
We have Kali Gunjan, Senior Manager, Credit Department, Bangalore Zone, Bank of India. So we have someone from Bangalore as well. Welcome, Kali.
Thank you.
Now the overview of the conference. Why are we here? We have seen that the involvement of Indian feminist and women studies scholars has been great in this field of health. And from the era of 1917 and 80s, the women health problem has been recognized a lot. The earliest intervention in the domain can be traced to the debates of 70s and 80s, when the limits of the medico-scientific worldview, especially in relation to women's health problem, were first recognized. So it was in 70s and 80s, the emphasis was laid on why women's health issue is important. But before that, the women complaints of tiredness, giddiness, feverish, back pain, all these were very much ignored and dismissed by doctors. And why is it so? Because it was labeled either as psychological problem or non-specific, not that relevant. Now coming to the complaints of menstrual pain, cramps, vaginal discharge, or painful intercourse, were often described as purely subjective and symptoms of health personnel. So this is how the health issues of women were concerned earlier, but now from 70s and 80s, this has been highlighted a lot. So today I, Nisha Bansal, Head Women Study, Center for Research and Development, welcomes you all to discuss your opinion and share your experience on menstrual health and hygiene, more in terms of opportunity. We all know that it is a cause, and we have studied, we actually always hear this issue of menstrual health and hygiene as a problem, but now how it can be taken as an opportunity. So we all are here to discuss that. So how we can create opportunities for women who want to engage themselves in some business, and for women and girls as end consumers. So we can begin that. Women Entrepreneurs Foundation. Now I want to just say a few lines about what is Women Entrepreneur Foundation. Women Entrepreneur Foundation is India's first female-only business sharing platform. So, providing more business opportunities, and only platform working on business recognition and visibility. That I want to highlight, because creating opportunities and sharing business might be an area where everyone is working. Not everyone, but many organizations are working. But working specifically on recognition and visibility, it is our forte, and we are really working hard on this for female professionals and business owners. So just about what we is about. Now moving on with the discussion, can we move forward? Yeah. So now moving on with the discussion, till now people has been paying attention to menstrual hygiene as a cause. Now let us discuss it as a business. If a female wants to get into a business of products and services related to menstrual hygiene, then how big would be the end consumer market? I want everyone's if everyone could throw light on this. If you want me to repeat the question once again, it's not a question, it's just about what we are going to discuss. So how it can be seen as a business opportunity of products and services related to menstrual health and hygiene. What do you think? So Manvi ma'am, if you could highlight on it.
See, Nisha, I believe that not only about the menstrual hygiene and health, I believe for the rest of the products as well, females are the largest and targeted audience in the world. Even if you are showcasing a men fairness cream, so the targeted audience is the females. Generally, all the shopping in the world generally is done by the females. So if we talk about the menstrual hygiene and health, so the audience are really huge, right? Really, really huge. And when it comes to the menstrual hygiene and health, generally we have the sanitary, disposable napkins and all these things in market. Now the cups, tampons, all these things are also in market. But then there are more things than that. For example, the infrastructure which we talk about, where females can go and get themselves comfortable. Like for example, in schools, I remember when we were in schools and it was a co-education school. So we have different washrooms for females and different separate washrooms for boys. It is common, but still there are many places which do not have these facilities. So infrastructure is one, again, then where females can boom, and marketing is altogether again a different sector where we can hit. So if we talk about a normal product and a menstrual hygiene or health product, you just multiply it by 5. This much we need now, and this much big is the market.
Right. So correctly stated, infrastructure is a very important intervention point. We have products here like tampons, as you specified, cups and all. But infrastructure again is a very important intervention area where government is working, but I would not say to a great point. But so here is the area where we all can intervene, and also this can be seen as a business opportunity. Okay, so Kali, what would be your view about it?
Okay, talking about this market from a banker's perspective, or from any financer for that matter, right? Like an investor and a financer, when we are looking at the market, this is a huge market, huge. Especially with how the trends are changing now. See, earlier women were not talking about it, men wouldn't talk about it, so people weren't talking about it. Now women are talking about it, or they're asking for what they want. They want hygiene, they want sanitation, they want cleanliness, they want products which are comfortable. So the audience now which we're looking at this market is a very innovative market. People are looking forward for innovation. There is this product I was reading about, there's something called pee pods. Yeah, so people can stand and pee. And this whole idea was like, how do you do that? And people are accepting, although this is a very virgin market in India because this product hasn't hit as such. But abroad, out of India, it's working pretty well. So as a financer, as an investor, huge scope. If you see all these products, and in FMCG industry, actually women hygiene and products related to it could be tampons, it could be biodegradable napkins, or the various varieties of napkins which are available, or say wipes, etc. Or skincare products are one of the fastest moving products in the market. So if I'm looking at it as a banker or as an investor or financer, I cannot say no to this market at all. There's huge potential, absolutely. So
we
marketing perspective, yes.
Okay, correct. So from Kali's perspective, being a banker, we would say being a funder, there is a great opportunity. And as you well said, apart from a very important thing that I noticed from your conversation is the skin cream. Usually women have rashes during periods, so skin products would be a very good product item that can be produced, and that can be a good business opportunity also. So thank you, Kali. Prerna?
So according to me, if I put some stats in front of you people, so there are only 20% of women in India who are using sanitation or menstruation products and everything in that era in India. And apart from those 20% people, only 2% of the women are aware that what they are using. So there is not only the accessibility problem, but there is a problem in awareness also. And people are not educated about it. I am in this business from past 2 years, and before that even I was not aware of what I'm using, why I'm using, what can be the effect of it, and how it can affect myself. Apart from that, as I say, only 20% female are using. But what about the rest of 80%? If I generally talk about it, there is a gap. There is a gap. But right now, if we see that gap, there are more suppliers than people who demand for it. But we can really need to change this attitude, and we really need to bring it more demand and then supply to support it, to back it. And that's the gap. And how we can cover it and take it as an opportunity, as PM Modi also mentioned, that vocal for local. All the products, all the FMCG products related to menstruation right now, which is there in the market, they all are not Indian brands. I'm not going to mention the name, but there are foreign brands or they are from MNC. And there is a huge scope where we people can intervene, and we can create that platform for ourselves and the women present in India, that how this can be taken as an opportunity where they can learn, they can earn, also they can promote it not only as a business or as an opportunity, but as a cause. And because there is a huge gap between supply and demand, there is a huge opportunity which is lying. So I think this can be a business perspective if I highlight these sectors: educate, aware, and access. So we really need to gear up and make it a product which is available and accessible to all the sectors of the society. It has to be pocket friendly. It has to be healthy for the environment as well, because right now what we are facing is because of taking this environment for granted. So by putting all these points together, there is a very huge scope in the market, and people are really willing and aware, and at least they are giving weightage to it. Okay, there is something like this, and we really need to work on it.
Thank you, Prerna. Very well highlighted that there are two areas that where investment is done properly, there's a great opportunity. We talked about awareness and education. So that's the entry point. Products and services will come later, but awareness and education as to why hygiene and sanitation is important for menstrual health. That's a very good entry point. And we also have a WASH project that has been running in the government, right? So that is doing, but still more of awareness is needed. And if we see the rural area, more education is needed in that areas. And since 70% of the India is located in the rural locality, so probably the tendency of business opportunity increases there and then. So thank you so much, Prerna. Garima, if we have a global perspective from your side.
I think almost all the points have been touched upon, which I thought I would be speaking. So that is one of the four of speaking at the end. But yes, looking at menstrual hygiene from business point of view, first, it has been very much outlined by people in terms of product, because like in India, almost more than 400 million women lie in the reproductive age group, for which menstrual hygiene is important. So if we look at the market, it is huge and it is varied. And on an average, if we count it, it is 7 continuous years of menstruation which a woman has to undergo during her lifespan in terms of longevity, if we look in India. And accessibility, yes, has already been talked about.
it is not so much accessible, and very rightly pointed out, entry point could also be manufacturing of pads or tampons which are eco-friendly and environment friendly, because it is made of lot of plastic, and on an average it takes around 500 years for one pad to get disposed. We don't have very eco-friendly methods of disposal. Like, you, at times we are walking on the street and there is a lot of litter, and out of blue, like, you sight a used pad lying there. We don't have proper ways, and if a woman is traveling, there are very limited chances in India that she would be accessing a very good sanitation infrastructure in terms of even a Western toilet or an Indian toilet, and would there be a dustbin which has a polythene inside it, and how do you dispose it? So when it comes to looking at it from a business angle, product, yes. Manufacturing, like she rightly pointed out, 20 to 36% of women use sanitary napkins. Else, they use tissues, or they use those handmade cloth. And yes, Government of India has come out with lots of schemes also, like Jan Aushadhi scheme is there, menstrual hygiene scheme is there, Ujjwala scheme is there, Sampan scheme is there. So if you talk about the efforts, central government and state government in India particularly has come up with it. So government is putting in money, but then a lot of it depends upon awareness generation, yes, but awareness generation when coupled with behavior change communication. Because see, ours is a very, India is in a transition phase. We haven't been developed yet, and there are areas in India which are not yet underdeveloped. So a lot of cultural and traditional taboo comes into being when we talk about menstruation. It is a very hushed up topic. Even menstruation has not been very much overtly part of the education curriculum which is being provided to primary or secondary school girls. And like when a female, and if we look at the age group, it is 13 to 15 years in India, which is almost similar to lots of African and Latin American countries. 13 to 15 years, when a girl hits that age, undergoes puberty, and at that point the girl knows what puberty is, what bleeding is. It is generally, in some traditional societies, it is celebrated, whereas in some societies it is not celebrated. It is seen as a bad omen, and there is a lot to do with mental and psychological well-being of the female also, because she is bleeding and she is uncomfortable. She is made to do household chores. Product, yes. Psychosocial well-being, yes. And third and most important is sanitation from medical point of view. Like, actually, poor sanitation could lead to cervical cancer. It could lead to urinary tract infections. It could lead to reproductive tract infections, and even hepatitis B for that matter. So, placing all these things in a nutshell, from market point of view, manufacturing, yes. Looking at the softer targets of behavior change communication, sloganeering, awareness generation, and third point, looking from a very health perspective. And India and Africa and lot of Latin American countries are the continents which are really lagging behind, because when it comes to American nations or European nations, they are quite forward in it. Like, they don't use black plastic bags to carry sanitary pads. Women don't have to think twice in terms of calling it out, I need Whisper in a departmental store. And countries like Scotland, the government provides free sanitary pads and tampons to its citizens, everybody. And for India also, like, it was progressive. Earlier, when GST came into being, 12% GST was put in, but now GST has been removed. So in terms of manufacturing point of view, it could be lucrative, but then it has to be environmental friendly, and along with a very strong messaging in terms on its packet also, or prototypes or usage of social media. So I think these are the 3 pointers which or the lens which we could be looked at in terms of business point of view.
Thank you, Garima. You very correctly pointed out at various points. First of all, environment, which is getting hampered. So intervention at that point would also be a great business opportunity. What kind of business or services are there in this sector where business owners can play a vital role? So talking about business or services or products or services that are there in this sector, I know we have talked about in bits and pieces in the first question, but if only talk about products and services, Prerna, especially from you, I wanted to know, apart from pads, what are the other products and services where business can be done? In which sectors? In which areas related to health?
Yeah. So if I talk about feminine products only, and I'm also working in the same sector, there are various things, because menstruation is not the only concern female have. There are various concerns they have. Like we can talk, as we can see, there is a P-Safe, there is a intimate wash, and there is something called breast pad, there's something called underpads. These all things are very important, because the only concern is not menstruation hygiene. We, being a female, are so sensitive in using the public washrooms, but there is no proper sanitation to that. And India, people are not putting any weightage to that. If I go to abroad, if I go to Canada, for example, I've been there many times. They have this specific amenity in their washroom. They have intimate wash, they have pee washes, they have seat covers, they have so many things. But in India, we find it very awkward to even talk about it. If we say that, we are sensitive and we need such kind of amenities, people look at us with those weird eyes. But that's the need of an art. But we don't put any weightage to it. Apart from that, this is from the product perspective, that there are various kind of products. And when we talk about a female product, we also need to talk about the products which are related to children, because that is also very important. From the foundational level, it is very important to give them such atmosphere and such products where they can be more free and they can stay away from all the disease and the problems which are there in the market. So if, for example, if I have a 9-year-old niece, she should be aware of these are the things which I can use if I have some problem. We really need to talk about what is menstruation. As Garima correctly mentioned, it is very important to talk about these things in primary and secondary education. So people are not talking about it. Okay, we have told people that from 13 to 15-year-old of age you will get a periods, but people are hitting this age, this situation. They are being imposed to the situation at the age of 9 also, which is known as pre-boomer age, but we don't talk about it. So that at that point the services sector come in. We need to provide services like awareness. We can work in the awareness sector. We can also work in the sector where we can conduct such workshops. We can create such life situations. We really need to be practical in that way. We have talked about it many a times. We have put this in theory many a times, but where we are putting it in a practicality. Also, we need to move towards empathy also. Being in India, we have various sectors. We have demographics of various categories. We can't say ki, okay, our demographic condition is this. No, we have been classified into so many things. So holistically, we really need to move on, and empathy is again a very important point, and I strongly consider it as a service. And how we can put it? We can put it by awareness. We can put it by creating seminars. We can put it by sharing our own experiences, and being a brands and companies associated with it. CSR can also be a really good way. Because anyway, if we take it as a market perspective, okay, CSR is important because you are anyway doing your marketing. But if we look at from the society point of view, it's a contribution to it. So I think if I want to sum up, these can be two things.
So rightly said, Prerna, the products are, apart from pads, there are intimate wash, breast pads, and underpads. So these are the products where interventions can also be done. Otherwise, so we're seeing from the service sector point of view, it's awareness workshops and how to educate people about this. Again, that would be a broader area where intervention could be required. So now coming on to Manvi ma'am, if you could highlight some points from the CSR sector as well, ma'am.
Nisha, here I would like to talk about logistics. See, I think rest of the points have been covered nicely, but I believe that if our nation works on strong logistics, so I believe these products and these services will be able to reach into the remote areas also. See, like Garima mentioned about the Ujjwala Yojana. So I've been really closely associated with that and how it is a success. How it has been successful, because gas cylinders are now reachable for in remote areas also. So likewise, if we talk about the sanitary napkins, or if we talk about hygienic creams, or if we talk about their disposal also, so how it will be possible? It will be only possible if the product is visible to the girls, to the females in those areas. So I will just restrict on here to just logistics, that we need to really work on logistics.
Okay. So here I think, ma'am, you wanted to talk about availability. We have products and services, but how to make it available to the people where it actually is needed. Talking about the rural population, even in cities, I think more or less everyone is using the products which are I don't know environment friendly or not, but the products that are available in the market. When we talk about Prerna's product, Pink Days, so Prerna, is it what kind of material are you using? Is it environment friendly?
Yeah. So there are three things which we consider while making a sanitary napkin. One is its compostability, second is it's being organic or non-organic, and third is it a biodegradable product or a non-biodegradable product. So if I talk about the compostability, there are many products which are compostable, but how much time span they take? As Garima correctly mentioned, generally all the synthetic products take 500 years to get decomposed. But if I talk about the organic product and the one which we are manufacturing, it hardly takes 2.5 years to get degrade in a natural condition. And if we give them those special conditions to treat, it takes 14 days to get degrade.
So,
And if I talk about the biodegradability, it's impossible to make a pad which is biodegradable, 100% biodegradable. We can make a product which is 98% biodegradable, but we cannot make a product which is 100% biodegradable. And where that 2% difference comes in is the last sheet. The last sheet of the pad is made up of plant fiber. And plant fiber is the same plastic which we use in capsules, which we consume. It's the same plastic which we use in syringe, and it's the same plastic which we also, dig into the person's body as a minor, minute meteor if that need to be cured, if something needs to be cured. So it is safe for the body, it is safe for the environment, but at the same time, it doesn't make the product 100% biodegradable. It leaves that gap of 2%.
So now connecting you and Manvi ma'am's points, so making the products which are environment friendly and logistically making the use of the logistics and sending the products to the right place is the need of the hour. And obviously seeing the whole travel of right kind of products at right place, there are various stakeholders stakeholders in between, there are various services and products in between. So the market is huge, that is what we can say. So Kali, I want your view also here as to what kind of business and services in this sector where female business owners can also play an important role. Being a banker, what do you see? Like how do you can say that interventions is possible and how is government supporting it?
Okay, so product-wise, I think we have already talked about enough, because all these products are good places to invest for an investor any which way, because this is not a seasonal product. Demand will always be there for a product. Like rightly Prerna said, how you meet this gap between demand and supply, that is something that we need to work on. So product-wise, good opportunity in all the segments, from skincare to sanitary napkins to whatever. Coming to service, also I think there are a lot of allied industries related to it. Allied could be education, coupled with awareness to it. So at primary grassroots level, how do you put awareness into picture, tell people about it, educate? So that's one. Other that thing could be health and health sector also. So how do you make this phase or the period of say 5 days for a woman comfortable, right? So you can put maybe there could be gyms or health training centers or saunas or whatever to make these 5 days easier for women. There could be yoga for that matter. We have so many yoga workshops, like I do yoga workshops for menstrual cycles for just those 5 days. So that is one allied. I think Apart from that, medicine is also something, maybe looking at the natural, or see, there are medicines available in the market, I know, but this is a recurring thing. It will happen once in a month, every day for 5 days. Can I take medicines? No. So is there anything available that will ease those 2-3 days for me? Can we come up with more organic stuff? Can we have more of healthier, maybe looking at Ayurveda or something which can just ease? So from your body pain to psychological to product. So I think these are the allied industries. Keeping the core as the product, there are I think 5 to 6 allied industries related to it. Now, as an investor and a financer, government is actually has a lot of schemes to invest. By and large, we have schemes for entrepreneurs, from manufacturing to service, with huge emphasis on manufacturing. Huge. Manufacturing, because it's a product, it is tangible, it is seen. You can give us figures, you can tell us how this is the bottom line, this is the profit. Service, giving us the bottom line is difficult. So I might not be convinced, but yes, government is still doing a lot in service. You have SIDBI, you have MSME, you have Government of India Finance Ministry, all of that coming up with a lot of schemes. Some of these very common, the schemes which are specifically, I'll just talk about 1 or 2 schemes specifically targeted. I'm going to name them because this is something that we have to read as in when you require funding. So you have schemes like Mudra schemes. So Mudra scheme is one of the schemes where government will fund you right from 50,000 rupees, maybe in a rural area, to in an urban area, will go up to schemes which have 500 lakhs of investment, where the government will do it for you. You have credit guarantee scheme, CGTMSE, that's what we call it. This is a credit guarantee scheme where you do not have to give collaterals. So most of the business come to a standpoint of difficulty in funding when we ask for collateral. Collateral is a security to secure the loan, a primary security. Most of us might not have that collateral, but yes, government is giving all those schemes. So that scheme is there in place. So recently, during COVID-19, another scheme, it is called Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So even that is one of those schemes where they are, like you initially talked about, how to make products in-house, how to keep the manufacturing costs less. So that is one of the schemes to promote that. Then you have Central Bank has a scheme as Sent Mahila scheme. Then Mahila Bank has another scheme for only targeted to the female audience. So these are few schemes. Mahila Udyog scheme is there, just for the women entrepreneurs, for people who want to put in money. And what government is doing, so rate of interest in these schemes are very, very low. Very low. You give extra concession only to women entrepreneurs. Then there are margins. So in any business that you go out to a financer, investor, or a bank, they will ask you what is your stake in the business. So for women entrepreneurs, they have reduced the stake in many of the schemes to as low as 5%. So sometimes they can ask for, depending from 10% to 15 to 25 to 50, depending on the complexity of the business. But these relaxations have been given to women entrepreneurs in various schemes. So yes, government is doing enough. As an entrepreneur, what we are looking at is what is the plan that I have in place. If I am approaching any financer, I have to approach with a solid business plan, because I need to build in that trust for somebody else to put in money. Because I am, as a banker, as a financer, will be looking at your bottom line. End of it, it's a business after all. So your bottom line is there, anybody will finance. It should not be a problem. And then there are other NBFCs and also banks might be little stringent in financing. Public sector banks, you have private banks, you have NBFCs. So all of them have very relaxed parameters of financing. So if not here, you can always go to an NBFC. If not there, go approach an MSME. So there are varied options. If somebody comes and says, as an entrepreneur facing difficulty with finances, that I don't think should be a reason to behold in any way.
Thank you, Kali. So one important area that you mentioned is medicine, Ayurveda or allopathy, anything. But yes, medicine plays a crucial part. The kind of physical stress, not physical stress, but pains that females go through. This could be an important area, important product where business could really flourish. So apart from it, you mentioned about various schemes, and really for me today it was very knowledgeable. I really ended up learning a lot from you about various schemes, because I really didn't have much idea that government has come up with so many schemes related to female entrepreneurs, specifically in the field of health and hygiene. So this would be something that we can impart to the crowd at large, to the females at large who really want to work, and this area is something where we all can work with, funding easily available for us. So now, Garima, since do you want to highlight on something related to product and services, as many points has been covered, but still if you have something great in your mind?
I think all the touch points were very nicely deliberated and articulated by each one of you. I don't have much left in it, but just 2-3 soft points which I would want to talk about is first being affordability. All houses cannot afford shelling of almost 80 rupees per month for a female to cover up not so overt but a covert hygiene situation which is recurring every month. So one has to be affordability if we want to reach the last mile. Second point, very well taken, is what has been highlighted by Kali. And but there is a catch when we talk about these schemes, and the catch is demystification of these schemes. There are so many schemes, and there would be so many pointers underneath these schemes, and so many ifs and buts, that for a common person to understand it, because what happens in rural traditional places in India is there is not much of trust left in banks. Generally, they go out for traditional people who charge hefty loans, but there is bon hame. You know that person, ye dendar hai, you'll go and get it from there. The fear of going inside a bank and filling the form is still something which prevents women for filing for so-called structured loan, entering the structured loan system. So it would be very important for you people to just place it in a very simpler manner and form a matrix kind of a thing if you want to disseminate the entire microcredit structure to females out there. And last but not the least, there has to be geographic target also, because you have to look first, you have to come down to a geography where you would want to start the production at, looking at the cultural, socio and presence of women and usage in that area, because India is huge and it has to be brought down to even a district level if you think of starting a product and services, and for that matter also supply chain management. So these were the 2-3 points I wanted to touch base upon. Rest everybody has spoken the major points.
So you have very rightly you said the crux of everything, the 3 important points. So you have made a task easy for me to summarize it properly. First is affordability, which is very much important. Second, very rightly said, the fear of entering a bank. Kali just pointed out that you have to come down with a very good planner, and women entrepreneurs in cities we have in numbers, but again various things attached, but I won't go in that because I would go on and go forth if I talk about it. So restraining myself, yes, entering a bank with a solid plan is again I would say a barrier. So we as women entrepreneurs who are at a privileged position can still afford to make a solid plan and go in the bank and take that kind of bank loans. But if we talk of women at large in the rural areas who want to work and they really do a good work, approaching the bank might be a hindrance. So working on that again, educating people. Here comes a very important thing, is training women entrepreneurs, creating women entrepreneurs. They are entrepreneurs, but giving them that kind of a skill again is an important area where I would say this is again a great business opportunity, creating women entrepreneurs. Then we talked about logistics, again a very important point. We also talked about various products and services that Prerna said which is available. Awareness, workshops again is very, if we talk about conducting workshops in schools and colleges, be it at city level or be it at village level, it makes a great impact. I myself being a student, I was not a bio student. I was in ICSE school. So in 8th standard, I dropped science. No idea about what is reproductive system. But workshop again was a great intervention point in my life, teaching us about what is periods, what is menstruation, and how do you have to take care of yourself. So my next question was about financial institutions and government, how important role they play. But Kali has highlighted and given us various examples and valid points about what all schemes are available. So now my last question, we are also running, it is now 10:50, so I'll just come down to my last question.
And today is my first day at office. I came to Delhi last night only.
Okay. So thank you, Garima, for being here. Your insight is also very important. So we all wanted you to be here. So my last question is, what do you think is the problem that it is not the mainstream business? And this is very important. Why do we think this menstrual health and hygiene sector is not seen as a business opportunity sector? So ma'am, if you would like to highlight it from the legal side also.
See, so Disha, first of all, thank you, because yesterday you have given me an insight about we were having a discussion, and there was a small point which you mentioned that there might be margins are less in this
right.
product. So legally, if I say that if the margin is less, so that means you have to supply a considerable
Right.
quantity. And if you are supplying a considerable quantity, you have to produce a considerable quantity.
Right.
I will just keep it limited to the legal perspective is recovery.
Okay.
For example, if I am the manufacturer and I am producing in bulk and their margins are really less, and if I have supplied the product to somebody and at that point my money is stuck, right? So that is the considerable challenge, I believe. Then I again see that the awareness in this particular sector is not, it's an untouched area. Awareness in itself is a huge industry in women health and hygiene, especially menstrual health and hygiene. There are, as rightly said by Prerna in the very first question, was that only a few of the big giant companies, that too the foreign companies, are working on this product. If you talk about Whisper, if you talk about Stay Free, or if you talk about, I think these two products are generally, well talked about.
Right.
What about the others? So awareness industry, again, it is an industry, I will use a word. So I believe that these two industries are untouched. How you will recover your money? See, if we are talking about business perspective, so only then we can go on if we are not stopped anywhere, if we are not hindered anywhere. So that will be all from my side at this point of time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Again, you highlighted a very important point. Just to add on to that, I just wanted to say that when we are talking about awareness, what I personally feel is awareness is not only at the level of women, because they are the consumers of this product. I think male members need to be educated a lot, or not educated, at least they need to hear about what is menstrual hygiene and what is menstrual health, because this is an area that they really not interested, obviously, because they are not facing any problem, and they are ignorant about it. And apart from it, India has various taboos related to it. Yeah, ma'am, please.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want to add a point here. See, this is my personal experience. I've been a commerce student and quite far from science. But my husband, he is a science student. So earlier I was using a kind of product, and we just like that. We just went out to purchase something, and he had read about the description, which is mentioned on every product. And then he said that you should not use this, but you should use this. So this is the kind of awareness which you are pointing out that we really need to have.
Yeah. So just if we have an advertisement related to what is menstrual health and hygiene, even the media is also not highlighting it that much. It is restricted to only pads, the products that are available in the market. Otherwise, no one is talking about it. But again, you very rightly pointed out, ma'am, that awareness to a larger crowd is very essential and it has to be done. And then legalities related to the deliverance of products, which is also where this becomes a hindrance for all the entrepreneurs. So this is another important area. Now coming to Garima, I would give you the second chance because I have kept you always in the last. So your insight on it. What do you think is the problem? Why is it not the mainstream business? Why is it not considered as the mainstream business area?
See, Manu ma'am has rightly pointed out from an economic point of view that profit margins are less. I would talk more about the psyche of the Indian society in terms of if you place India and the roots of Indian society. First, females, second sex. Second, the hypocrisy around it. We don't talk about it. It can never ever become a political agenda. Mm-hmm. It is not related to employment, food, health, LPG gas or environment. Like nobody would talk about it. Like you rightly talked about advertisement of sanitary products, but there is another level of hypocrisy around it. They would only show blue ink, not red blood. So the psyche, the mindset around it, and it is the teenage girls who get into it and they are not obliged to vote. They don't fall in that voting category because it is a lot to do with political economy driven society which India is in, and it would take decades for people to actually talk about. The more you talk about it, there has to be a conducive environment where a product can be placed, people can come and buy it. It is hushed inside under the carpet, and till the time it is placed there, it would be very difficult to come forward and place it as a commodity, as a lucrative business for people to come take a step forward.
Just one thing, even if we are traveling in the flight, can we carry the pads like this and go to the washroom? No. Because we ourselves feel we all feel hindered that we can't carry the pad like this. So there is something in the psychology, we are not that comfortable.
So it's both, it's external stigma and it is internalized stigma, which we as users face it. We think this is how it is because we have been socialized in a manner, and there is external stigma as to how people will perceive you if you carry it. So I think a lot to do with the socio-political environment in India.
Yeah. So thank you, Garima. Again, a very important thing highlighted here is the psychosocial factors that are related to it. Right? Am I? Yeah. So these factors are very important, and as you stated that India is in the transition phase.
Socio-political, geopolitical, geo.
Okay.
To do with.
Yeah. So India being in the transition phase, neither fully developed, in the development phase, we would say. So we are not that much. I would say not aware, but the terms that you were using.
Progressive.
We are not that progressive. So bringing us to that level, bringing all of us to that level would take years, but again, it has to be talked about. Yeah. So Kali.
I think most important was what you've already discussed. Just a small, from an economic point of view, I could be what Madam very correctly said, margins. True. If you look at cities, there could be some entry barriers also into the business because you already have biggies playing big roles here, right? So in cities and all, to compete with these big entrants, because you don't get the first mover advantage at all because the prices are already low.
Right.
Comfortably placed. People in the cities buy those products from foreign companies, which is fine. So that could be an entry barrier in the cities. People can, however, still in the cities, in the bigger cities, can still try their hands with innovative products because this market is receptive. So that could be good opportunity here in cities, but I'm not sure why isn't that happening. I'm not very sure about that. Talking about the other 70% of the population which resides in the villages, we are still struggling with the first phase. We are still struggling to tell them about what health, hygiene, menstruation is. So getting these paths in place for them, educating them and making this as an industry where you get profit margins out of it could be really difficult, because we haven't crossed the first level itself. So economically it might not be as viable. And if you look at the socio-economic factors in these small towns and places, okay, talking about the small towns, the B towns that you say, this is still a place where these products, not the high-end products, but maybe the say sanitary napkins which are competitively priced can be actually a good market. So maybe technology infused with because you need numbers. You need numbers. Until and unless mass production happens and sale happens at that level, it will not be economically feasible to come up with these industry. Self-help groups and all are there in villages and rural areas, but imagine the amount of time that it would take. So maybe for this to become a mainstream, it already, I think, is a mainstream business. It's just that people...
It is not Indianized.
Yes, you don't have Indian players here.
Yeah.
Exactly, you don't have Indian players. But it'll take time, of course.
So Kali, you also pointed a very valid point of how in cities there are barriers related to big Bs playing, big brands playing all the game, and how the barriers are there for the new brands, Indianized brands that are coming. And obviously in villages, we have not crossed the first stage of awareness and education. Then how we can think of building an industry there? So first we have to build that base of educating and creating awareness about what is all hygiene and health around menstruation is. So thank you, Kali. Prerna?
I think Manvi ma'am has something to mention.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see you, ma'am.
No, it's okay. I just want to add a very important point here. You know, a few years back, Supreme Court had issued a guideline that in every public toilet, there has to be, sanitary napkins should be available there. But it has not been implemented, to the world.
No.
Even on the, Asian highways, right? You will not find these sanitary napkins in the official place where it should have been. There are small shops nearby, like the paid vendors, those who like pay weekly and all these things, and they overprice that. So in those circumstances also, the following, the execution of the guidelines is also very important. That was the point I wanted to add.
Yeah, ma'am, very correctly said, and thank you for highlighting it. So Prerna?
So I have 2-3 things to mention. Starting from where ma'am left, people are not implementing even the legal framework which is given to them. So the another guideline which has come last few months back, that from 2021 every brand has to put a disposable napkin, and if they are not going to put these bags, that brand will be banned. But at the same time, the point where these FMCG, big FMCG companies are here, all the MNCs and the foreign companies, I really like to mention the point of consumer behavior, where the consumer is very sensitive buying these products. So it's not about that these brand has impact on their mind, but also these customers who are stick to these brands. If I go and tell them that buy Pink Days because it is organic, it is compostable, it is biodegradable, good for you and good for environment, they may not believe me because I'm not a brand.
Right.
And why I'm not a brand? I'm not a brand because I don't have such huge impact on the audience. If you know something by name, it's a brand. If you don't know something by its name, it's not a brand. And people are very sensitive while buying these products that they want to stick to a brand. Because they think if this is a brand, this is good for my health. They don't consider what they are providing. They're only considering they have this market share, it means it is good for my health. So consumer behavior is very important, and I think social media can play a very important role while in targeting that kind of audience. Because we cannot go within being a company which is 2 years old. It is not possible for me to run a huge TV ad because of the funds. But a social media can play a very good and a very important role. And influencers can play a very important role because people are literally looking at them. They are literally looking at them and see that hope and its scope of improvement. So this can be the one way where these local brands and these small brands can enter, and these FMCG huge FMCG companies can take a backseat from the awareness point of view. Next point, I want to put are taboos and stigmas related to the menstruation in the Indian society, and we cannot work on it unless and until we work together. So we can't just say, okay, women need to be empowered. I think women is already empowered in this field. We need to empower a men.
Right.
And that's how we can move together in this. And very correctly mentioned by Garima that we really need to put that geographical diversification. Because you can easily buy a 80 rupee product in urban area. An urban club can easily purchase an 80 rupee product, but it can be an issue with the villager. They cannot buy a 80 rupee product. And what I can do for them? And as I'm in this business, I see a huge margin. From the outer perspective, it can be seen that okay, there is a very less margins. We cannot earn much in this business, but there is a huge margin, and there is a huge scope of innovation also. If somebody can come up with a product where they are putting triphala into it, where they are putting aloe vera into it, and they have a very scientific research behind it. Okay, if I'm putting a triphala, there is a reason behind it, because if I wash triphala wash, so it relaxes the muscles of the vagina. So very scientific point of view, and getting such products patented in India and taking it out is a very progressive approach if we look at it. Also, being in a business, we have seen a gap. India is importing 90% of their menstrual products. 90% of the menstrual products we are importing. Why? Because raw material cost is really high in India. Because putting machinery is again an issue in India. Getting a labor is issue in India, and giving them a proper remuneration. So that's why what we are doing is, if I can get a 2 rupee pad imported, putting all the custom duties, and while manufacturing here, I am getting 2.5 as my cost. This is an issue. So, how we can cover? We need more manufacturers of raw material. We need more manufacturers of the machinery, of the logistics that need to be provided. Then only the ultimate manufacturer can manufacture a product. So we need all the resources to come together to make it happen, and that's where the gap is. So there is a huge scope in India. I think there is no market like India. 80% of female are not using something which is so necessary, and that's where we need to go. So it's not about coming with a product or a service, but it's also about all these back-end markets and the services and the products that need to be come together to make a whole holistic infrastructure. Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, Prerna, thank you so much. Taking your perspective, and obviously being one of the manufacturer, it was a very important insight that you've given as to how all the resources need to come together, and then only flourishing in the market, where India is a most viable market, having n number of consumers but not using the product that is a necessity. So you have the consumers right here, and as you rightly said about the costing is also, the margin is also good. It's just that combining all the resources and reaching the right target in a cost effective manner is the need of the hour. So just to summarize the whole conversation, anyone wants to say anything, or should I wind up? No. So, okay, first of all, thank you so much for all the very knowledgeable insights. And from all our discussion, I think we all come to a conclusion that this is a very viable market. This is a market where we can flourish, but the entry point is also there through finance, as Kali has very well specified. The finances are available, but again, education and awareness, that becomes a hindrance. So there are hindrances, but the scope of work is a lot. There is a market where the consumers, the clients are ready, you can say, in different terms. And just you need to educate it, just you need to have right kind of resources to manufacture it, and come in the market with kind of costing which is geographical friendly as stated by Garima, because we have a diverse, our nation is very diverse with cities, villages, and so various things are important. So, ma'am, do you want to say anything before winding up?
So I just want to thank you all personally. It was really insightful conversation today, and definitely we'll bother you again while writing the report if we miss out something. I think we all can join hands if we are lacking in resources somewhere. We can use Garima's insight and her experience, worldwide experience. We can use Kali's, numbers, right? We can use Prerna's manufacturing insight. She's a manufacturer, and we can connect more and more distributors to Prerna, so that Indian-made product and a trustworthy product can reach to the markets. All I feel is just thank you so much, everybody, for being here today.
So thank you, everyone. As ma'am said, we might get back to you on your important pointers that we might miss out, but hopefully we'll not miss, and the report will reach you all soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.